It's VL Speaks, episode 34, Taming the Cravings. Episode 33 was about senses and urges. And I promised at the end of that episode that I was going to do another episode addressing cravings. Now, when I say cravings, I'm not talking about when your body feels like it needs particular nutrient and you're like, okay, you want to start eating oranges, or you feel like you need to start eating more greens, or you need to get more protein into your diet. That's something entirely different. And that's a good sign when you're able to tap into that part of yourself, your body, and know what it needs. That's a very good sign. I'm talking about things that are not healthy. I love this quote by Rolf Sovik, one of my teachers. He wrote, "Craving separates us from love, from wisdom, from consciousness itself, and it creates pain." Why would we want to create more pain for ourselves? I don't know. So what do we do? What do we do to address this? Now, the cravings itself usually is associated with actions that have happened and then thoughts, and then kind of attaching yourself to those things. And then it becomes this kind of behavior that you're not necessarily in control of. But it has to do with your thinking and your actions. And it also has to mean, it means that you're not in the present moment. You're either thinking about the past or you're thinking about something that you're going to get in the future. Okay. So what's that look like? What are the chain of events? All right. Well, it usually starts with an experience that feels good, right? It could be a myriad of things. Then you have a connection to it. You have a connection to that experience and how you felt. Then you're thinking about it and you're milling it over in your head and you're wondering, when is it going to happen again? Right? And then the thought of it not happening is disturbing for you. And anything or anyone that pushes you away from attaining it, you become pretty adamant, like, no, get out of my way. This has got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, there's going to be consequences for quite a number of people, depending on what it is. So does any of that resonate with you? Take a minute. I hope you got your journals there with you. You know, I love homework. So what do you do to bring this into balance? Well, we go back to the basics. We go back to the fundamentals that I talked about when I first started filming these episodes. We get into things, we just start thinking about things differently and clearing the space. Remember, I like to say simpler is better. Coming from someone who can make things complicated, always have to remind, not even complicated, just complex. Overindulging in thoughts, right? Going back to the basics of self-mastery in the most simplest of ways. So what does that look like? Well, being kind to yourself. You can ask yourself, when you find yourself getting wrapped up in these things, is this activity, is this behavior, is this thinking kind for you, to you? Or is it causing you to be unkind to other people, especially when you don't get it, when you don't fulfill this craving? Okay. The next thing is to be honest with yourself, right? Most likely, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to be honest with other people. You don't have to be brutal about it. Remember, kindness comes before truthfulness. The next thing is do you find yourself wanting to take things from other people in order to fulfill this craving? Or are you becoming possessive? Are the senses out of control? Or are you able to moderate your senses and have some more self-control? And then ultimately, you want to feel some peace in your life. You know, when you've got cravings, it's not peaceful. You know, it robs you of your peace. Okay, so let's start with kindness, because we can definitely use more of that in this world right now. And truthfulness. I mean, you can see how anger, blame, aggression, and violence, you can see how that's not going to work for us, right? Just look around. It doesn't really work for us. And typically, this is a projection of your own pain that you're going through in your life. Okay. It's true. If there's something bothering you and you're not living in a conscious way, you're going to go over there and kick the dog, proverbially or figuratively or literally. And then what happens? It sets off a chain of events. So one person, like a bully is usually being bullied by someone else, right? And then they're going to go and try and bully someone else. And then it goes on and on and on until someone says, stop, it, enough of that. So if you were to look out into the world and see how your pain could be projected onto others in an unkind manner, and you could see yourself in this situation, you would probably start changing your behavior. And it does start with you. It starts with you being kinder. And we're all part of this collective world that we're living in, right? Do you want harm to come to you or to anyone else? Of course not. So it has to start with you. It starts with your actions. And what happens before your actions? Your thoughts, your speech, your actions. Start to think about how you are behaving with yourself, and then start forgiving yourself, right? It's so easy to get into this, oh, you're a bad person. Look what you did. Yes, it's good to know that if you're doing something that is unhealthy, that it's something that you need to stop. But you don't have to keep beating yourself up about it, because that's unkind. Okay? So think of how you are speaking to yourself and how you treat yourself. These are good things to know. Truthfulness. This is a biggie. Truthfulness. I had to really learn about putting kindness before truthfulness, because I can just blurt it out there for everybody in the world to hear, or at least the people that I'm speaking with. But it is about telling it like it is and not how you want to see it. People do it a lot. They recreate narratives. On the second, I was just on the phone with a very dear friend of mine. She's dealing with an ex-husband, and they were in a mediation session, and he just started to say, oh, that's not true. That didn't happen. That didn't happen, and created a new scenario. And you know what? That's infuriating to see, for sure. The first thing I'm going to say, though, is, are you doing it? Are you being honest with yourself? Being kind with yourself, but also being honest with yourself about what's going on in your life. What needs to be cleaned up? And what new habits need to be established? Okay. In the first few episodes, I talk a lot about morning ritual, things to kick off your day. And I say that because it's with starting new habits that we're able to solidify, like things that are very concrete. It helps us to solidify new patterns and ways of thinking. And it starts with the smallest of things. It doesn't have to be monumental, but truthfulness, being truthful with yourself and being truthful with others. And if you're going to be delivering the truth, you don't want to harm people, right? You don't want to be hurtful when you're delivering the truth. You want to be honest, but put a kind twist on it, right? And why do people lie? I think it's partly because they're lazy, or they're scared, or they're trying to manipulate a situation, or being selfish. It's good to know why you would do that or someone else would do that. The thing of it is that if you lie and you get caught out there, because the truth always comes out, always, sooner or later, and depending on how big the lie is and what circles you travel in, it's going to come out. And if people know that if once there's a break in trust, oh, that is something that takes time to mend. Okay. So if you've been dealing with people that are lying, if you can, get away from them. Okay. If they're really close to you in your life and you're kind of stuck there with them, you're going to have to confront it. And if they don't want to confront it And if there's any way for you to separate yourself from this person, if they choose to not own it, I don't know how you can get these people to start telling the truth. And as you get older, it becomes a habit that is very, very firmly ingrained into the subconscious, and it takes a while. So if they're not wanting to work on it and don't think it's an issue, chances are they're not going to change. And chances are that you're going to be stuck with it. So think about that. Just think about that. But there's a lot of negative consequences to continually lying. And it's also not great for you. You know, it's hard to keep track of things. It's hard to remember things when you're lying like that. And if you are not able to discern a truth from a lie, that's something that you have to address. If you don't know when people are telling you the truth or not, that's something that you need to address within yourself. Okay? Truthfulness does not replace tact or discrimination for certain. So just keep that in mind. Kindness for truthfulness. These are good things. These are basic things, but it's always good to come back to them. There's always a good time to have a refresher course to help you change yourself and move forward. Now, talk a little bit about stealing because I don't know. I grew up in New York City, so people used to like rob other people all the time to go get drugs or alcohol or pay rent, whatever. Just support bad habits like gambling, things of that nature. Why would you? Well, why would you steal? Well, because you're unhappy, feeling deficient, like you're lacking something. You envy what others have. You're angry, and this is a way of justifying it, you know? And secrecy, about it and the anger, those two go hand in hand, interestingly enough. You know, but the thing is that your real deep needs are not going to be addressed if you're stealing from other people, especially on a regular basis. You know, I was with someone and we were adults. I was with someone and we were just going around the store, looking for little knickknacks. I was getting some stuff for my mother, and this gal was picking up stuff like, "Oh, we'll just take that." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Oh, we don't have to pay for it." And I said, "We are absolutely paying for it because I don't want to be associated with a shoplifter. We're paying for that." No, but this person thought nothing of it, like nothing of it, to just take something without paying for it. And I was like, darn, this person probably does this a lot. If they don't think it's a big deal, but it's a big deal. And then I wondered, I wonder if her children have ever seen her doing that. What kind of message is that relaying? So I'm going to say that if you feel an itch and that this is something that you do on a regular basis, focus on self-sufficiency, self-reliance, right? And that you can and that you have the ability to create your own stability and self-sustenance and a way to create happiness within yourself. And if you really can't kick the habit, start volunteering. Volunteering your time. Give your time. Give money. Give away things. Okay? That's a good way of helping you shift. Volunteering is very, very good. Volunteering your time and money at the same time is actually a great way to help so that you start creating this sense of inner wealth, that is not a contingent about taking other things. Because when you have that inner wealth within yourself, you attract more of it. And wealth just doesn't have to do with money and possessions. It also has to do with your health, your mental and your physical and your emotional well-being. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now your senses, we get back to the senses and how it plays into things. How much are you giving in to your senses and your urges, right? Think about it. Take a beat. Think about it. How much time do you have to spend on the TV in front of a screen? I have neighbors that first thing that they do when they get home and they're older than I, the first thing that they do when they get home is turn on the television. That's the first thing. It's the first thing they do, and it's the last thing they do. Do you think there's a problem there? A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So take a beat and assess your own behaviors. What does that look like? How much time are you spending on, the screen? How much time do you spend on eating too much or thinking about eating? Or thinking about what you're going to drink, or where's your next drink coming from? And escapism is also a part of indulging your senses. So think about that. Are you constantly having to have something in your ears so that you can feel whatever, connected, whatever it may be? All of your senses. Think about how you operate with them and then how you want to address them. And write it down. Write about like touch. Are you oversensitized, or do you have no touch in your life at all? Because we do need it as humans, obviously. What's going on with food? What's going on with what you're watching? Are you indulging too much in also stuff that's like violent? Smells. Do you have to have really? I've noticed that people are really into like all this fake smelling chemically stuff, air fresheners, the plug-ins, even the perfume. Do you know that most of the perfumes, mass market perfumes, are all made of synthetic? They're not even made out of real scents anymore because they're so overly produced that it's synthetic. Yeah, that's another, and you're putting it on your skin. That's another story. I'll be focusing on skin again in the future. So assess all of that, right? And how urges come up for you and how they become cravings. Think about it. All right, so daily habits. I would say I've just talked to you about all of these things, right? Moderating your senses, whether you're stealing, how you're utilizing your voice, right? Truthfulness, kindness. Think of these things that I just mentioned. And I want you to just gently and slowly and persistently and consistently pick one or two every 2 weeks and start implementing them. Because sometimes to think about all of it and try to do it all at once can be overwhelming. So, of all the things that I spoke about, right, I want you to go back. We talked about kindness, truthfulness, moderating your senses, being kind to yourself. Start with one or two of these things that I just discussed and start implementing them one or two of them for 2 weeks at a time. And then start trying to practice all of them in the things that you're doing in your life and how it relates to your senses. Okay? And write about it. Write about what you're finding. Like, oh, I'm finding it easier to do this and harder to do that. And maybe you're also substituting habits, right? So maybe instead of watching 3 hours of television and then some wonderful news at the end of your night, or staying glued to social media, try reading an uplifting book or journaling about what happened in your day before you go to sleep, which would help you sleep better. Unloading some of the stuff that's happened to you throughout the day, but definitely write about the things and the habits that you want to change. And how do you see yourself doing it? And be truthful with yourself and how you're assessing yourself. And you can also ask friends. In 2 to 3 months, have you noticed something different from me? You may find yourself attracting a whole new set of people now that you're changing these habits. And you might have to find yourself attracting a whole bunch of new people in your life to establish new habits and new ways of dealing with things. And find the support. You don't have to do this alone. There's plenty of support out there if you're looking for it. Literally, I sometimes write down things that I want and I say, okay, I'm going to be open to this happening. And it happens. I could get a phone call from someone. I've been saying that I want to create more community where I live because I don't have much at the moment. And I've had a few friends that have circled back into my life and they're like, I really want to see you. I miss you. I'm sorry that we've been apart for so long. Let's get together. And it's like, oh, yay, community. This is great. New places, new faces. I mean, you're always there wherever you go, but try finding yourself reading things that are going to support your change. If you want some suggestions on books and places to go, leave questions here, leave comments. Also, remember that this is a community that's being built here, so make sure that you are respectful when you leave a comment or you have a question, or if you're commenting on somebody else's comment. This is a place here that is to support healthy lifestyle and change. So it starts with each one of us. So each one of you out there, make sure that you think twice, because if the comment is not helpful or suitable, I will delete it. Alrighty. Well, I hope that you have liked this segment on taming the cravings. It may seem very fundamental, but that's what it takes. It takes incremental change over time and being honest with yourself and being kind. Yeah, those are the two biggies for me. Yeah, kindness. I'm usually always honest, but kindness. Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you leave some comments because I like the nice comments and the fun ones and thought-provoking as well. Let's do it. And if there are any topics that you'd like me to cover, put it there. Happy to. I'm not going to tell you what the next topic is because I haven't decided yet. We'll see. But thank you for stopping in and watching. You have a wonderful day. Take good care of yourself. See you next time. Ciao.